The old house stood on a hill overlooking the town. Blackwood House. Locals whispered tales. They said it was cursed. No one dared to go near. Not in daylight. Never at night. The house was a relic of a bygone era. Its windows, like vacant eyes, stared out at the world. Some said a darkness lingered within, a presence that never left. Claire first saw the house in a dream. She felt drawn to it. The Blackwood House called to her. She knew she had to have it. Maybe she could give it life again, or maybe it would take hers. Claire loved old houses. She loved their history, their secrets. She loved bringing them back to life. The Blackwood House was her most ambitious project yet. It was a grand old Victorian mansion. It had been empty for nearly a century. Everyone warned her about Blackwood House. They told her it was dangerous. They said it was haunted. But Claire didn't believe in ghosts. Not until she moved into Blackwood House. The first few weeks were quiet. Claire spent her days unpacking. She started work on the renovations. She hired local contractors. They were hesitant. They worked quickly and left before dark. Claire felt a strange energy in the house. She shook it off. It was probably just her imagination. The whispers started subtly. Claire would be working in her study. She would hear her name, a soft whisper, barely audible. She would dismiss it. The old house creaked and groaned. It was probably just the wind. But the whispers grew louder, more insistent. They seemed to be coming from the walls, from the shadows. Claire couldn't shake the feeling. She was being watched. One night, Claire woke up with a start. She heard a crash downstairs. She grabbed her flashlight. Her heart pounded in her chest. She crept down the stairs. Each step creaked. She reached the bottom of the stairs. There was a cold draft. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up. She turned the corner and saw it. The figure was tall and gaunt. It wore a long, flowing gown. Its face was obscured by darkness. But Claire could see its eyes. They glowed with an eerie light. Claire gasped. The figure turned towards her, and then it vanished. Claire stumbled back, heart racing. She fumbled for her phone. She needed to see if it was real. She checked the security camera footage. There it was, the figure, standing in the hallway, just as she had seen it. But there was something else, something even more terrifying in the mirror behind the figure that was Claire's reflection. But her reflection was different. Her eyes were wide with terror, and she was smiling, a cruel, sinister smile. Section 5. An unexpected guest. The next morning, Claire tried to rationalize what she had seen. Maybe it was a dream, a hallucination, but deep down she knew the truth. The Blackwood House was haunted. She couldn't stay there alone. She needed help. She decided to visit the local library. Maybe she could find some information about the house's history. As she was leaving the library, an old woman approached her. The woman introduced herself as Mrs. Hawthorne. She said she had heard Claire was asking about Blackwood House. Mrs. Hawthorne told Claire that the house had a dark past, a story she shouldn't delve into. Claire insisted. Mrs. Hawthorne reluctantly agreed to meet with her the next day. Section 6. Secrets of the Blackwood Family. Mrs. Hawthorne invited Claire to her home. It was a cozy cottage on the outskirts of town. The walls were lined with books. Claire sat down on a plush armchair. Mrs. Hawthorne handed her a cup of tea. She then began to tell Claire the story of the Blackwood family. The Blackwoods were once prominent figures in the town, but their wealth came at a terrible cost. They were ruthless businessmen. They exploited the townspeople. They were rumored to be involved in dark rituals. Legend had it that the patriarch of the family, Jeremiah Blackwood, had made a deal with a malevolent entity. In exchange for wealth and power, he offered his soul, and the souls of his descendants. Section 7. A desperate plea. Claire listened intently. She had stumbled upon something truly sinister. Jeremiah Blackwood's wife Eleanor discovered his secret. She tried to stop him, but it was too late. Jeremiah murdered her. He buried her body within the walls of the house. He then took his own life. The Blackwood children were never seen again. Some say their spirits still haunt the house. Mrs. Hawthorne told Claire that she had to leave the house. It was too dangerous. The ghosts were angry. They were trapped. They wanted revenge. Claire was a prisoner in her own home. The ghostly figure appeared more frequently. It would stand at the foot of her bed watching her. It would whisper threats in her ear. It wanted her gone. Section 8. Trapped. One night, Claire woke to the sound of breaking glass. She sat up in bed. Her heart pounded in her chest. She could hear footsteps coming down the hallway. She grabbed her phone and dialed 911, but there was no signal. The footsteps grew louder. They were coming from her bedroom door. Claire jumped out of bed and ran to the door. She fumbled with the lock. It was jammed. She pulled and pulled. But the door wouldn't budge. She was trapped. The doorknob rattled violently. The ghostly figure materialized before her. Its eyes glowed an eerie red. It reached out its hand towards Claire. Its touch sent chills down her spine. Section 9. The escape! Get out! The figure shrieked. Leave this place! Flee while you still can! Claire didn't hesitate. She grabbed a chair and smashed it against the window. The glass shattered. Claire climbed out the window and ran. She didn't stop running until she reached the safety of the town. She looked back at Blackwood House. It stood on the hill, shrouded in darkness. Claire never returned to Blackwood House. She left town and never looked back. The Blackwood House remained abandoned, a testament to the town's dark past. Locals said they could still hear Claire's screams echoing from the house. They said the ghosts were still waiting for their next victim.